Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I have with me Matthew Carreira, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Center for Pediatrics. My name is Alyssa Vaughn. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Office Practicum. And today, Matthew and I are going to have a little fireside chat to talk about some of the challenges that Matthew and his practice may have experienced at the beginning of, I guess, Matthew, around March, the beginning of COVID, and what your practice looks like now that we're starting to exit in some areas and some shelter-in-place orders are lifting, and what you and your practice leadership got out of COVID and how you're going to think about that as you move forward and head into the future. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this with me. Thank you so much. So first, before we get started, tell me a little bit, me and those watching, a little bit about Center for Pediatric Medicine so we can better understand the scope of your practice and why you may have made some of the decisions that you did as you face this challenge.
Of course, of course. So Center for Pediatric Medicine is owned by Dr. Machado. With her leadership skills and all of our other providers that sit on the board with us and all of our other management. We're a 3-office pediatric group. 2 of our locations are in Danbury. 1 is in New Fairfield. We currently have 6 MDs, 4 mid-levels, a lactation consultant, and a nutritionist. And with that strong team, we were able to, help combat, COVID and get through things. And, even outside of the providers, our mix of our front desk staff, our billers, our wonderful nurses and staff throughout the office, everyone really pitched in to allow us to take on these hardships, which is amazing. And we're so proud to have the team that we have at Center for Pediatrics.
Yeah, it's great. There is strength in your teams. And I do find when I talk to a lot of pediatric practices, particularly, that we really are in it to win it and to be there for the children in our community. And I think that passion for those of us that serve pediatrics is probably one of the best things that got most of our practices through this, is just that power of positivity in times of uncharted territory and keeping looking forward. So thank you for telling me that about.
Oh, of course. We love sharing that.
Anything less out of you and Dr. Machado.
Thank you. But with such a great staff, we have so many patients in the community that we need to take care of. Anywhere from 8,000 plus. It becomes challenging, and it becomes even more challenging when you throw a curveball at us, such as COVID. The curveballs were so large that our hours and everything were adjusted and changed. We're typically Monday through Thursday in Danbury, 8:30 to 9 at night.
Wow.
We offer those late night availabilities to try to accommodate parents who are getting out of work late, or maybe work during the day and can't come during the day, need to come at night. Sometimes things happen. Someone gets, a school injury or a sport injury, and they need to head over to the office. So we always felt by expanding our hours and being readily available for everyone, it attracted people to our group. Fridays were 8:30 to 5:30, and then the weekends were also open every day as well. We're 8:30 to 2 on Saturday and 8:30 to 1 on Sunday. So we're really proud and excited of our hours.
Yeah, that is so great. I have to be honest with you. I never figured out quite how to do that in my own practice. We always wanted those kind of hours because you're so important. Accessibility in healthcare is huge. So that's really amazing that you and your physician leadership have been able to accomplish that and to have those hours, because you're right. Life doesn't happen between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. There are other events and times where parents need our support with their children. So
Exactly. And the docs and the staff are great about it. They have staggered schedules. So it's not like we're overworking anyone in that manner. And, some people start more at night and work through the night, but it allows us to be readily available to provide well visits either during the day or at night, sick visits throughout the night and day, consults, more complex issues, behavioral issues that are going on. So I feel patients really feel that we have a handle on their health, knowing that we're always available for them, which is nice.
I love that, Matthew. Thank you so much for sharing that about your practice.
course.
So if we take a look at COVID, right, it does sound like you and your practice have always been future forward thinking. And then all of a sudden, we had COVID and a true pandemic hit the entire world, not just the US. And so there had to be some challenges that you had to face as the leader of your practice. So do you mind telling me about what some of the most difficult situations were that you had to face during this time?
Of course.
And
Yeah,
how
I think a lot of it was also the financial uncertainty of many things. Going day by day, seeing your schedule go from 20 to 22 patients a provider a day to 3 is very,
wow.
very, very worrisome. And then just kind of not knowing, you don't have a crystal ball on when it's going to improve or get better, or when
Right.
people will feel better coming in. We also were working with lack of equipment in the beginning. And it's tough to
Mhm.
explain to your staff that it's safe to come in and it's okay.
Right.
So it did challenge, myself. I think it challenged Dr. Machado. It challenged a lot of the managers here about our leadership skills. There certainly was up and downs, but I think we got through it with our team, knowing that we had to just continue to coach them and stay positive with them and say, guys, this is going to get better. We're now getting more gloves and we're getting more equipment and we're getting PPE gowns and things were improving. So I think as things
Mhm.
started to get better, staff started to feel comfortable and feel a little bit more in a new norm, which hopefully we're getting past and out of. But that made it very difficult on us. We had to compete with unemployment, which was at one
Mhm.
point in time almost paying more, or if not paying more than people working, making us have to make very challenging decisions that we normally wouldn't make in such a financial tough time. So that challenged us quite a bit, but we think that staff got through it and really worked with us for the better of things, knowing that the future is where they need to think about it. And I told a lot of the staff on unemployment that, it is time for you to come back. We're getting busier. We need your help. And we were challenged. Why would we want to do that? It makes sense to stay home. We're safe at home. We're getting paid more at home, where we really had to sit down with people and really coach them and educate them that COVID won't be forever. Your benefits will be with us. Your retirement is with us. Your future and your career is with us, whether you're a nurse and you're continuing school or you're on the administration end with us, that, really we're the long-term fit for you, not unemployment, which wasn't easy, but I think we got everyone on just about.
Wow, I would have never, in all of the leadership challenges I've had and still have today, I think if you're a leader in any role or any company, you are challenged as a leader. I would have never thought about being challenged with competing with unemployment rates, but kudos to you
Very difficult.
able to step up to that leadership plate and continue to say, think about your future. We're
Right.
here for you, right? There is a new norm past COVID, and we want to be here to support you in all the ways we have, up to this date. So kudos to you, Matthew.
Thank you.
I think
Thank you. Yeah.
to kind of turn that thinking around and to be tempted and to say, no, there's more here, and we got to start thinking about your retirement just like we did before.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a very difficult time. And I understand everyone knows that they're putting their families first at this moment. And we understood that. So it was tough to try to convince people that, they don't want to go home and bring possible COVID home or whatever it may be. And, staff was overworked. We had staff on unemployment. We had a core team, which was basically our team that we kept to get through COVID. While the other people were unfortunately furloughed, which was also a very difficult decision for us. But the staff that we did bring on that was willing to continue to work through started to get burnt out, and it was difficult. And we had to adjust with it day by day and find ways to give them time off and different incentives that would keep them motivated to keep kind of getting through the storm. And we did it. And I really pat them and applaud them on the back for helping us get through these difficult times. And CPM wouldn't be anything without all those front desk staff members, administrative staff members working remotely, the doctors coming in to unprecedented times, and the nurses really kind of grinding through these long hours to get us to where we needed to be. So we're really proud of the team that we have.
That's amazing, and great for recognizing that. I always say we're only as successful as our people, right?
Yes, 100%.
People matter 100%, especially those that are truly committed and caring and are in it to take care, again, right? Children of our community. That's why we're here, and to bring us back to that core purpose. So I love it.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And it was just a very difficult time to even try to stress to the staff working for us that we really were appreciative of everything they were doing. You know, even in regular financial times, it's really tough to sometimes come out and give people over and beyond. Imagine during unprecedented financial times where it's tough to say, hey, we can give you a little incentive or give you X amount of days off. It's almost near impossible to financially stay afloat and offer that. But, you know, we really wanted to stress to them that as times continue to improve, we will continue to try to take care of our staff and their family to make sure that they know that we care about them.
I love it. I love it. Speaking my love language, Matthew. So in terms of financial stability, right, outside of obtaining the PPP loan, and really just being fiscally conservative and those sort of things, what were some of the other best practices that you felt like prepared your practice for this unanticipated impact to revenue in your practice and bringing in, you know, the money that you need for your daily operating expenses so you can care for the kids coming in your doors?
Correct. So we did see a dramatic decrease in patient visits. It was just inevitable. I think us and probably the rest of the country saw it, and it was tough. It's tough to walk in the morning and look at your account and say, wow, how am I going to maintain the practice with this kind of cash? Near impossible. Knowing what payroll is, knowing what rent is, knowing what all these other things are. So yes, the PPP loan was a huge burden off our back that helped us out for, you know, the last 2 months, which was awesome. We also had to be creative. We had to find different ways of outreach, and we had to almost go back to an old sense of medicine again and pick the phone up and call people and say, hi, you know, we're here for you. Our office is safe. We're cleaning it. We're doing this. We're doing that. So staff doing that and stepping outside of their normal day-to-day stuff and doing that was huge. You know, our business manager, Ingrid, also worked alongside with me, which was awesome as far as helping manage the funds and the finances for the practice. The positive thing is that myself and Ingrid already had a sound system in place prior to COVID financially, budgeting and making sure we are on the same page as far as monies for the practice and what payrolls are and what the expenses are. We would talk daily about these things. So I think having that strong structure in place prior to COVID allowed us to almost continue a positive future forward thinking and manage the funds. We always had a money market account on the side that we would put funds into for a rainy day. I think having that rainy day account allowed us to try to get by these unprecedented times. It allows us to reinvest into technology and for the group. It allows us to reinvest into our staff and our people to make sure that they're feeling appreciated. So that was really another big challenge, but I think because of the previous practices, it allowed us to kind of keep a steady hand on it.
I agree with you. I think it's one of the most important roles that we play as, you know, the business leaders of pediatric practices. There's always, you know, the people management that is a huge part of running any healthcare practice, but in pediatrics particularly because we know the family so intimately. But the financial stability and being able to have those best practices in place and those processes in place, like you mentioned, to look at your budget, look at your expenses. How are you doing, right? Is there any areas that you need to take a look at and readjust? And then the ability to put money back, right? Whether it's for COVID, hopefully we hope that's not what it's for, but then to have the intent to have that money, as you mentioned, to reinvest in your technology and then to reinvest in your people, their continuing education, right? Their bonuses, all of those sort of things. That's really great, Matthew. I love it.
Yeah, it was good. And we're going to continue to keep up with these models. That's what's going to keep, you know, I was trying to always teach my managers and teach my staff, we can't get comfortable here. We can't get stuck. We can't think that this is done, or this is just another way of readjusting, being creative to think of ways that we can reach out to the community and get our patients back in. And then hopefully we can continue to grow the finances a little bit more and then keep reinvesting it back into the group. Like I said, new technology and investing in the staff as well.
Yeah, you make a really good point. Complacency, right, is a killer to any business strategy growth. And so
exactly
the fact that you understand that, you know, complacency is not what got us here isn't going to get us there. And so we all
absolutely not
forward, and we always have to continue to innovate and pivot and change so we can meet the needs and demands that change on a daily basis, let alone during a COVID pandemic.
Correct.
So you had mentioned, Matthew, that like many practices around the country, your visits had a dramatic decrease. So what were some of the key opportunities and advantages that you took out of that downtime while the physical footprint in your office had lessened?
Yeah. So the first thing was getting through the day by day of changes of just information from the CDC and making people feel comfortable and getting our staff kind of up to par on things. The next opportunity that we really sat down and took was, hey, we are a little slower. What are we going to do? We can't just sit here and look at each other or get complacent, like you said. So myself, Dr. Machado, management team, we really sat down and started to pinpoint different key areas of the practice that we've never had time to invest into, just because we're always just running to the wall. The doctors are seeing patients all day, all night. My managers are working into the day-to-day grind of just keeping the pediatric office open. We've never had this time to sit back and reflect and say, hey, why don't we look at A, B, C, and D, and let's do it now while we have a little time. So we were really fortunate to continue to hire a new APRN, Julie, who will be joining us this July, which we're really proud of.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I think Julie's going to be a great asset in addition to our team. She's a new graduate, but she comes with a wealth of experience. I think she's going to fit right into the CPM family community great. So we took this time to build out her orientation programs and different things that she's going to need to set her up for success. So that was one accomplishments that we were really proud about. The other one was, as you know, with OP, was always the new portal implementation coming up.
Right.
So what we've been doing is working with the OP training team and really cleaning up our database. That was the first step of things, and making sure that we called all of our patients that had a lack of demographical information, whether it was email, a cell phone, their PCP that's on file, whatever it may be. So we're just about there. I followed up with my front desk manager, Bandy, the other day, and we're about 90% there. And once we get to that database cleanup, we can move on to the training internally and start to get our staff trained. So that was also a big accomplishment that we were happy about during this downtime at COVID. And lastly, our satellite office out in New Fairfield, it's a smaller office. Our Danbury office has 15 exam rooms. New Fairfield has 5. We recently renovated our Danbury office previous COVID. In the last year, we kind of really, and we stayed operational, which we're really proud about. But we gutted that office and we added more exam rooms and we added more flair to the office to keep up with the young generation of pediatrics. And we figured, it's time to do New Fairfield too. We got a lot of feedback. People would say, why haven't you guys done New Fairfield yet? Why is New Fairfield not the same as Danbury? So during the last 2 months, we gutted New Fairfield from new floors to electrical to paint colors to new furniture and things as that such. So when patients came back, they felt they're coming back to a nice, clean environment. And people would say, how are you guys doing this during such an unprecedented financial time? Luckily, prior to COVID, we were able to negotiate with our landlord to have X amount of allocation funds for renovations. So that allowed us to do this. So I simply reached out to the landlord and said, I think this is going to be our opportunity window to renovate. And he said, absolutely, it makes sense. You guys are slow. We really weren't having a lot of patients in our New Fairfield office, so we just shut it down completely for 2 months, renovated it, and now it's beautiful and it's up and running and patients are coming in and it's getting busier again and people are ecstatic and, really happy to come in. They love it. Yeah, it's great. So we're happy about that.
Yeah, what a surprise. Yeah, even
staff morale.
Right. Yeah, what a surprise as a patient to walk back into the location that you frequent and it be brand new, bright, and fresh. That's amazing. So you were busy, Matthew. I mean, you not only, it sounded like you had already begun to start the hiring process for a new nurse practitioner, but rather than put that on hold, you said, no, we're going to go ahead. We're going to use this time like we've never had to properly onboard, to get her trained, to get her set up and ready to go when we're running back up at full speed. You were future forward thinking. Think about your OP new IntelliChart portal. Thank you for that, Matthew. I'm so happy to hear that you're working on the database cleanup, because you're right. That is the first most crucial step, right? Is to make sure you're paying attention to that database cleanup, and then also walking through the learning journey to do your training to make sure that you're ready to hit the ground running and implement that portal and some of the awesome features into your workflows. But then the fact that you We could probably have a whole other talk on lease negotiations that
Oh yeah, Oof.
COVID,
Those are fun.
you had enough insight, right, to really advocate for yourself and your practice and those tenant improvement dollars. So that allowance allowed you to take the time and capitalize on that lease negotiation that you did to have your brand new office that you could open up once everybody was returning to your office. That's fantastic. I mean, you really found ways to be creative as that physical footprint decreased, and how you capitalized on that time. Were there any services, Matthew, that you implemented or services that you did that you made changes to or implemented during COVID to help you guys
Yes.
maintain?
Yes, definitely. Obviously, we've always talked about telemedicine in the past, and just we never were at that step to say let's do it. But this really forced us to do it and quick. And I remember, staying up and getting all the doctors' IDs together to get them up and going, just so we can get these patients to be seen. And that was our number one priority, was to make sure people felt that CPM was there for them. And that was difficult. And and we have staff that are technologically savvy. We have staff that's not technologically savvy. So, there's a lot of hurdles we had to go through to make sure that people were, ready and trained in such a short period of time. And just getting through just the unknowns of both the community that were using telemedicine and us. We had hurdles of people saying, oh, my laptop's not working, or the camera's not working, or they wouldn't show up for their visit. So there was a lot of, little things that we had to learn to be creative on, that I felt it was just almost a day by day improvement, which, I think worked out really well. And I think everyone's getting really comfortable with it, which is nice.
That's great. So you plan on continuing telehealth as you move forward now that you've dipped your toes in the water?
We do. We certainly do. And Dr. Machado is a huge advocate of it. And the one thing that we're really hoping we'll see a change in the future is that these insurances jump on. We've had a lot of difficult pushback from insurances, sending us letters stating that they're going to be ending the telemedicine services as of X amount of dates. And that becomes really frustrating, because with patients, it's tough to explain to them prior to COVID-19 about deductibles and how things work and patient balances and the account ledger. Now imagine telemedicine going away and them telling them they're financially responsible for it. It's a difficult conversation, especially when it's an emergency on the fly and someone's sick and they need to be seen right away, and then they get a bill and they think their insurance has covered it. The hardest decision we have with our patients a lot is explaining to them that they need to be financially responsible and educated with their insurance. We have 8,000 patients. It's impossible for myself, the front desk staff, the doctors to know everyone's plan and what everyone's going to be covered and not covered. So in our financial policy, it states that everyone's responsible for what the insurance isn't covering. So that is something we're worried about with telemedicine moving forward. And we're hoping that these insurance companies realize the benefit of providing this service to their patients. It's only going to allow our life to be easier too, and see them. So we're hoping that they keep extending these dates and allow us to keep it going. So.
Yeah, and I do think, or I know that there is a lot of advocacy work being done by the AAP, right?
Yes.
Incorporate payment policies around telehealth, because you're right, it is the future of healthcare. That additional level of accessibility to patients. Were there any other services that you implemented or saw a change in? It sounds like you offer a pretty extensive service offering around, ADHD. You mentioned you do nutritionists, lactation. Were there any other changes that you noticed within your service?
Certainly, yeah, of course. And I think this is both, massively beneficial for the group and our community. So Lisa Boulay is our lactation consultant. Prior to COVID, Lisa would be doing 50% primary care, 50% lactation, just with the decreased amount of patients, and trying to keep Lisa in another location outside the clinical facility where her office has always been and will stay. We've decided to make the decision to completely remove Lisa from primary care altogether and just have her run our lactation services Monday through Friday. She's wonderful. She's available on the weekends. She's on call for these patients and mommies. And daddies, dads, of course, are involved in this process as well. She's just involved with these families. I think they feel that sense of loyalty with her and accessibility and communication. It's really, I think, going to continue to grow our lactation services. Babies, they're going to keep coming. And having Lisa around, knowing that she's now available Monday through Sunday versus just select days, I think is allowing her to see people more often and quicker, which will have a better turnaround rate for us, which is wonderful.
I love that you're thinking about how you expand your lactation services. And I also like that, whether intentional or not, it sounds like it paid off in COVID when people were apprehensive about coming into our practices, that it sounds like you have your lactation consultant in an office where your normal day-to-day acute and well visits don't, where they come in. So she's in another location where those patients are coming in and out. Is that right?
Correct. So our second site in Danbury is primarily our business and administrative office. It's myself, it's our clinical director, it's our billing team, it's other select few administrative staff that we have up there. And Lisa has her own little suite and cubby areas that she's able to see these babies. And there is no other clinical foot traffic coming through the door. So I think it does make these families feel comfortable knowing that they're going to be coming and seeing Lisa in an isolated and secluded area. I think it's a little bit more personalized. I think it's a little bit more attention driven. And people seem to really like it, which is nice.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I never thought about that. We always, of course, think about making the lactation environment as warm and as welcoming and supportive as possible. But I do see how that would pay off, that you have the ability to have her somewhere where your acute and well visits aren't coming in and out. Because to your point, right, new babies are born every day, COVID pandemic or not. And there were mothers out there that still needed that lactation support and services. So I think that's great. And right, since you're going to have her now full time, what a great future forward strategy that you can market, right, your full time lactation consultant that's available to your practices to help you bring in those new babies.
Right.
As your teenagers and college aged kids start to, transition out of your practice and onto the adult medicine world.
Yes, it's very exciting. We're actually even looking to the point of getting Lisa another room almost at this point, knowing that she can probably almost juggle 2 visits in between each other. It's been something that's been on our agenda for some time, and I think now that she's going to be full-time lactation, we'll really seriously consider it. And she does a wonderful job, and just the environment that she has up there, it just wouldn't make sense to have her be in the medical facility on an exam table with just 2 chairs, and she's got couches in there. She's got the baby weighing scales, and it's colorful and it's welcoming and it's warm. And I think, especially if you're a first, time parent, it's nice coming into a room where you feel really comfortable, and it's not just that general pediatric office visit, which is nice. So I think it really sets a good expectation for our group for where they're coming into.
Well, Matthew, this was an amazing chat. I appreciate it. It sounds like you've been very creative, really capitalized on the time that you had in your practice. I love how, despite COVID, you and Dr. Machado and your entire team continue to be optimistic and be future forward thinking and capitalize on tasks or projects that are going to help lead you into the future, right? The redesigning of your offices, getting ready to enhance your patient engagement with the patient portal, investing in your people and their training opportunities, taking a look at some of the really wonderful services that you offer, like lactation, and how you can move that into the future for practice growth. I mean, this was just amazing, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining me today. I got a lot out of it.
Awesome.
And those that are watching get some tips and tricks out of it as well, as they think about where they're going to move forward.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. Anything, to help, share to other pediatric offices on things that we're doing to be successful together. I think that's going to keep the pediatric environment and communities and private practices alive and thriving. So I think, it's fun to share, what we're doing, and I like to learn from other practices as well. So I think this is a great little idea that you guys are doing at OP.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye, everybody. We hope you have a great
night. Thank you.